Hi there guys, it's the Reaper here. Today's video is going to be a basic guide to Team Fortress 2, so this is mainly going to be a benefit to you new players out there who feel they need a bit of guidance on how the game works. So I'll be looking at all the different game modes and their mechanics, and I'll be taking a look at each of the 9 classes, their strengths, their weaknesses, and a few gameplay tips for each of them to bear in mind. A few things I won't be covering include trading and crafting. This is purely because this goes into quite a lot of detail, it's quite specific, and I don't really have time to talk about it in a basic guide. There are videos dedicated to these on YouTube, so if you look those up you should be fine. Other thing I won't be talking about is various weapon loadouts. This is simply because I'm talking about 9 different classes. I don't really have time to realistically try and cover them all. If you want to jump straight to a certain part of the video, you can click on those annotations in the middle there, or you can click on the links in the video description. Okay, so the first tip I'll have for anyone just starting out is to, when you're in the main menu, click on the Advanced Options button in the bottom right hand corner, which is going to bring up the Advanced Options menu, and you need to ensure you click these 2 boxes here, which are Play a hit sound every time you injure an enemy, and Display damage done as text over your target. This is going to ensure you get a better idea of what kind of damage you're doing to your target. Okay, so the second tip I'll have for new players is to join servers that have standard respawn times. Although it is annoying having to wait to respawn when you're dead, respawn times are designed with the game in mind. Attackers have a far shorter respawn time than defenders. This is designed to keep the game balanced. Okay, so let's have a look at the different game modes on offer. Capture the flag will be familiar to most people who've played an FPS before. Both teams have a flag, or in this case, a briefcase full of intelligence that they need to defend whilst attempting to capture the other teams. The first team to 3 captures wins the game. Pick up the intelligence by coming into contact with it, and then you'll need to return it to your base to score a point. If you die whilst carrying the briefcase, you'll drop it at the point at which you died. Unlike in some versions of Capture the Flag, the enemy team can't return their flag once it's been dropped by coming into contact with it. However, the flag will reset after a set amount of time. Before that time expires, you can pick up the flag again, or any other teammate can do the same, for another attempt to capture it. If you die again, the timer gets reset. Your flag doesn't need to be at its base for you to be able to capture theirs. Payload is a game mode where the blue team, who form the attackers, need to push a bomb cart all the way into red team's base. To push the bomb cart, you simply need to stand next to it. The more teammates you've got standing next to it, the faster the bomb will move. The bomb cart also acts as a dispenser, which means it will heal nearby teammates and it will replenish their ammo as well. The bomb cart cannot be destroyed, although the red team can stop it moving by standing next to it. Once you reach a checkpoint, the time will increase, and the blue team need to get to the enemy base before this time runs out. Red team simply need to hold out until the timer ends. If the bomb cart is not touched by a blue team member for a certain amount of time, it will slowly begin to roll back to the nearest captured checkpoint. There's also an iteration of payload known as Payload Race, in which both teams have a bomb cart and need to be the first one to reach the end point. Capture point is a game in which the blue team, who again form the attackers, have to capture a certain number of points, between 2 and 5, from the red team. They only have a certain amount of time to do this, and the red team have to hold out until the timer ends. As with payload, the more people you have on a point, the faster it will capture, and the red team can prevent a capture by standing on the point. The points must be captured in order. As you can see here in the bottom of the screen, the first point's been captured, but the other 2 are padlocked. Capturing a point would also add to the timer. There's also a version of the game that doesn't have attackers or defenders, but has a number of points on a map, and both teams must be attacking and defending to get up to their opponent's base. Special Delivery is a game mode in which both players must attempt to pick up a package from one side of the map and deliver it to the other. Initially, the package can be picked up by anyone. If a team member picks it up and then is killed, it will drop on the ground. For a short while, it can only be picked up by members of that team. If the timer runs out, the package gets reset. The player holding the package needs to stand on this lift, which will slowly rise. When it reaches the top, a capture will open and they need to place the package inside. If the player holding the package is killed, the lift will slowly begin to descend. King of the Hill is a game mode in which both teams vie for control of a single control point in the centre of the map. While the control point is held by one team, their timer, located at the top of the screen, will begin to tick down. If the control point gets captured by the other team, their timer will stop and the other timer will begin. The first team to have its timer reach 0 wins the game. So let's recap our game modes. We've had Capture Point and its variant, Payload and Payload Race, Capture the Flag, Special Delivery and King of the Hill. You'll notice there's no Team Deathmatch or Deathmatch on that list. This brings me to my biggest point about the game. The best piece of advice me or any other player can give a new Team Fortress 2 player is that you're playing an objective based game and you need to act like a team player. Just because you're not the best shot, you haven't got the most experience, doesn't mean you're not of use to your team. If you're the guy who went medic when no one else on your team was, or you're the guy who lost a couple of lives capturing a point, you're going to be of far more use to your team than the guy who sat back and racked up some kills. So now I've made my point, we can have a look at the classes we're going to be using. The first class we've got is the Scout. The Scout is one of the fastest classes in the game with the highest speed, has a double capture rate, and he can double jump, changing direction in midair. However, he only has 125 HP, making him one of the squishier classes, and his weapons are short range. One of the Scout's biggest assets is his speed. Although he's got low health, he can often avoid enemy fire. If you can get close enough for a couple of good scattergun hits, you can move back and finish an enemy with your pistol. You can use your speed to get behind an enemy and use your double jump to change direction in midair, which makes you very difficult to hit. Don't underestimate the 2x capture rate either. This Scout here on this point nearly captures this thanks to that. A Scout's speed also makes him great at capturing flags. However, because sentry guns automatically hit, your speed is useless at dodging, therefore they're going to take you down pretty quickly. If a sentry is unguarded, you can dart back and forth before it can hit you, however doing this will leave you vulnerable to enemy fire. The next class we're going to be taking a look at is the Soldier, who has a pretty beefy 200 health, making him one of the harder classes in the game, and he can achieve a high damage output with his rocket launcher. However, he is fairly reliant on slow moving rockets to deal damage, and he's the second slowest class in the game. The Soldier is the closest to an all-rounder class you'll see in TF2. The key to success with the Soldier is gaining the high ground. To do this, you can use a technique called rocket jumping. Aim at the ground with your rocket launcher and fire just after jumping to launch yourself into the air. This makes it far easier to hit with your rockets. Your rocket launcher is slow to reload, so make sure you do so whenever you get a free chance. Here again on Bad Water, I go for the high ground, which makes it far easier to hit these enemies around the payload cart. Switch to your shotgun when you run out of rockets and you can take an enemy down. Again, take the opportunity to reload when there's no enemies around. If you have enough rockets loaded, you can also rocket jump mid-fight as a risky move to take down an enemy. Next up, we've got the Pyro, who can pump out a huge amount of damage with his flamethrower and leave an afterburn effect on his target. His air blast has a lot of utility, being able to reflect projectiles such as rockets and grenades. However, he does suffer from the short range of his weapons. To counteract the short range of the Pyro's weapons, namely his flamethrower, you want to try and get behind enemy lines as often as possible to be able to ambush them so they can't escape. You'll often find quicker classes, scouts in particular, will try and get beyond the range of your flamethrower and just harry you to death. To prevent this, try and catch them briefly in short range of your flamethrower before switching to your shotgun to finish them off. Your air blast has a lot of utility, being able to extinguish teammates, and you can reflect projectiles such as rockets back onto their shooters. As a pyro, you are the bane of spies. Even if they're disguised or cloaked, them being on fire is going to make this completely useless. Once they're cloaked, they can't counterattack, so there's very little they can do to stop you killing them. You want to use your ability to spy check so well by helping out the engineers on your team. If you're not in the middle of a firefight and you're near a nest of sentries or other buildings, simply just burn around with your flamethrower. There's no team damage, so you won't harm your teammates, but if there is a spy lurking around, you'll be able to bring him down easily. Next up we have the Demo Man, who has great defensive capabilities, and because his weapons fire in arcs, he can fire indirectly at enemies behind cover. However, he does struggle to deal with enemies at close range. The Demo Man's sticky bomb launcher makes him great on defence. I can cover important areas like the cart here on payload with sticky bombs, but I don't need my sticky bomb launcher out to be able to detonate them. So I can switch my grenade launcher and simply detonate the bombers by right clicking whenever I want. The grenade launcher's grenades fire in arcs and they explode on contact with an enemy but not on contact with the terrain. So I can lower a couple of bombs here and kill the sniper behind the rock. I can stay with my grenade launcher. If an enemy comes close enough to the cart, I can simply detonate the sticky bombs. Next up we've got the Heavy, which is a favourite class of mine. The Heavy has 300 health, making him the beefiest class in the game, and if you can get close enough, his minigun can put out a huge amount of damage. However, due to his lack of speed and his big size, especially when he's wound his gun up, he's vulnerable to snipers and spies, and his gun requires a wind-up time, meaning enemies can often catch you unawares. When you're playing as a Heavy, you need to ensure as often as possible that you're in the thick of the fighting, although don't just go in unsupported. At short to medium range, your minigun and your health are going to top out against most enemies. As medipacks heal a percentage of your health, a big medipack heals 100%, which benefits a Heavy quite a lot. Heavies, especially when they're moving objectives, are key targets for spies and snipers. So make sure you be a bit paranoid. Check your teammates when you're not in a firefight. Heavies may have 300 health, but once you've got your minigun wound up you move very slowly, so even a poor sniper can headshot you. If you're about to turn a corner, jump before you wind up your minigun. You're not slowed down in midair, and if you turn a sharp corner you can catch an enemy unawares. Again, since I'm not in a fight, check your teammates and cover your back. Remember you're playing an objective-based game. The payload cart is here on my right, so the blue team have to push up. So I can stay around this corner out of the range of snipers. If an enemy comes near to the cart, I can just shoot them. At short to medium range, if a sniper tries to headshot you, a few shots to him will mess up his shot. Your minigun does tend to chew up a lot of ammo, so keep an eye on it. If you use the sandwich as opposed to your shotgun for your secondary, make sure you put your back to a wall before you use it. This is going to stop a spy coming out of nowhere and backstabbing you. As a Heavy, you pair up very well with medics. The standard medigun overheals you by 50%, which means as long as this medic stays on me, I've got 450 health, and that's even before the Ubercharge is popped. A player running like this towards your team is almost certainly going to be a spy. Now I've got my medic on me on this point, it's going to be very difficult for the enemy to shift me on it. As the enemy have to stand on the point to prevent the capture, they're going to get chewed to ribbons if they come near my minigun. Next up we've got the engineer in the support role. The engineer can construct buildings, sentry guns to protect his team, dispensers to resupply and heal them, and teleporters to get his team back in the fight quickly. However, he does lack weapon damage. He only has a shotgun and a pistol, which most classes as secondary weapons. As an engineer, your buildings are your best asset. If you place a building here, hitting it with your wrench while it's constructing will make it construct faster. Building a building or trying to upgrade it will cost metal, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner. If you run out, you can replace it by picking up ammo boxes, or you get a free resupply if you go back to your supply closet in your base. If your building's at full health and you have metal, if you hit it with your wrench, you'll begin to upgrade it. Each building has 3 levels. Sentry guns will get more powerful and have more health, dispensers will dispense more ammo, and teleporters will teleport quicker. If you right click on a building, you can pick it up and then replace it in a better location. It's a good idea to have a teleporter entrance outside your spawn, so you can put an exit up whenever you're ready and your teammates can use it immediately. If you upgrade one half of the teleporter exit, it will automatically upgrade the other half. As an engineer, you need to watch out for spies and their sappers. As you can see here, my sentry's just been sat, which disables it and will slowly damage it. It takes 2 wrench hits to remove a sapper. My building's been destroyed, but you can pick up the metal from the parts. Engineers can also help build other engineers' buildings. I go through this mate's teleporter, and it's often quicker to help him upgrade his own buildings before starting on your own. Next up we've got the medic, who unsurprisingly can heal his team and buff them over their normal health. He also has access to the Uber charge, which I'll explain in a moment, and he naturally regenerates 3 health a second. However, in combat he's only a porter average. When you attach to a target with your medigun, you can see their health in the middle of the screen. Notice here you can actually buff your target to beyond their normal maximum health. This is 50% with the standard medigun. This is called overhealing. This bonus health will trickle down over time back to their normal maximum health. During the setup part of a match, or when you're just not in a firefight, you want to make sure you buff as many targets as possible with more health. One common mistake medics make is they tag very close to their target. With this heavy here I can stay several meters away while still healing him. This allows me to stay out of harm's way while he tanks the damage. I can keep healing him while he clears through the targets and gets onto the payload cart. If you heal enough, eventually you'll charge or Ubercharge meter in the bottom right hand corner. Right click to activate it and you'll make you and your target invulnerable with this glow for a certain amount of time. The Ubercharge wins games. It allows you to push through, take out sentry nests and a bunch of enemies while your team can push up. If my team had been behind me here, they could have pushed the cart while we pushed ahead. Next up we've got the sniper, who unsurprisingly does high damage from afar and can take out pretty much any class with a decent headshot. However, he's poor at short range, and while he's scoped into his sniper rifle he's vulnerable, especially to spies. Playing as a sniper is fairly simple, although not necessarily easy. If you play a sniper in most FPSs, you'll probably be fairly comfortable with this. The only thing you really need to pay attention to is when you're scoped in, there's a small charge bar to the right of the crosshair. The higher this bar goes before you shoot, the more damage you'll do. A fully charged shot will body shot most classes in one hit. To get the highest damage, you want to be going for those headshots, which do double damage. And no, I'm not a very good sniper. When you're scoped in, spies are dangerous, which means you want to take them out whenever you get a chance. A headshot, even an unfully charged one, will kill most classes. It is possible with most sniper rifles to fire when you're unscoped, however it will count as an uncharged shot and therefore do less damage. You also can't headshot unless you're scoped in. Last but not least, we've got the Spy, who can backstab any target for an instant kill regardless of their health, and has sappers which disable and eventually destroy buildings. He can also cloak and disguise to fool the enemy team. However, once he's discovered, he's vulnerable, and in a firefight he's of little use. When you're playing as a spy, you need to use your disguise and your cloak to get behind enemy lines. The small watch icon on my left hand shows me how much cloak I've got left. You need to keep an eye on this. When you see a target, don't decloak too close to them because you'll make a small sound which will alert them. If you get discovered, simply recloak and try and find a piece of high ground to hide on. Be patient as a spy and wait for a good opportunity, but don't wait too long, otherwise your team is effectively down a man. Wait to decloak, it takes a small while. And try and pick out key targets like medics. Here's another example. I've used a cloak to get behind enemy lines undisguised, and I need to wait for an opportune moment to decloak. I stop here to wait until I'm fully decloaked. When you've got a group of enemies, start at the back of the group and work your way forward. Here I managed to take down 2 heavies and a medic all on the cart. Otherwise these would be very difficult targets to take down. I'm about to decloak here until my teammate shows me how it's done. Another often overlooked ability of the spy is your ability to see your enemy's health. Here this sniper is equipped with a razorback which will block a single backstab attempt. However, he's on half health, which means a crit from my revolver will kill him. While an engineer is distracted, it's a great time to go in for a backstab and take out his buildings. I stab him here, quickly redisguise so the sentry doesn't kill me, and sap it. Now his teammates are going to be after me, so I need to run away. If you're on your own, sapping a building while the engineer is still alive is just going to get you killed, and you can remove your sappers before it does any real damage. However, if your teammates are around, being able to sap a building is a lot of use, as it takes 2 wrench hits to remove a sapper. Your team can often destroy the building before the engineer can repair it. I can see in the bottom my team is starting to push the cart again, but they're being held back by these sentries. Thankfully I had the opportunity to backstab this engineer. Now I've stopped the sentry shooting at my teammates and hopefully they can take it down while it's disabled. This last section of the video is just going to be about a few pieces of terminology that didn't really fit into the other parts of the video. One thing to mention is critical hits. You've seen a few of these already. Occasionally when you fire a shot, it will glow a team coloured colour, and when it hits an enemy it will say critical hit. These hits do double damage. The majority of weapons in the game can critically hit, although the chance is quite low. Your chance of getting a crit increases depending on how much damage you've done in the last few seconds. There's also many crits. You'll never get these randomly, but they can be generated by effects such as the Spy's Girati. The other thing to mention is spy checking. Pyros are the best at this, and I showed you this in the pyro section of the video. If you're worried about spies, simply burn around an area. If an enemy's a spy, it will light on fire, even if he's cloaked or disguised. There's no such thing as team damage, so you don't need to worry about hurting your team members by doing this. All classes can spy check. If you think an enemy might be a spy, simply shoot him a few times or try and run through him. You'll run through a teammate, but if he's a spy, you'll collide with him. And that's about the end of the video, guys. Thanks very much for watching. If you like the video, hit the subscribe or the like button there. If there's anything I haven't covered or you're still confused about, just leave a question in the comments. I'll see if I can answer it. Until then, I'll see you next time.